But here's my challenge for you personally. And depending on your level of influence, it's going to be for your area of responsibility as well. For you personally, my challenge is for you to feel unleashed and happy. So with the work area, for me, how I have to start, I call it the hourglass approach, is from the top at the highest level of, is your mission and vision healthy? Now, especially the vision, because typically the mission is something that's going to be beyond our lifetimes. It's kind of like your legacy statement, something you strive for and move towards. But with the vision, especially for the next 6 to 18 months, it must be clear. And not only must it be clear, is everyone clear on it? If you are clear on it, do you buy into it? Because if you don't buy into it, then your engagement is already less than 10. Does that make sense? Which then goes into, if you buy into it, the next tier question is, do you know how you fit into it? So you're clear on it, you buy into it, but you don't know how you fit into it. Now I really have a problem with you being unleashed, don't I? So if you're a leader, I ask that whatever team you lead, at the very least, you got to help them be clear both on the vision, that they buy into it, and how do they fit? The bottom line is, we are, whether we're at home at work right now, which is a lot of us, right? We spend the most of our time at work. So can you imagine if you don't feel like you fit into work, into the vision? That's a big problem. I already know this statistic has not changed in the past 60 years. But the top 2 reasons why people even leave an area of work or career, and we'll get to that a little further down, is it's relationships, and it is a sense of purpose. It's engagement. It's a sense of value. So you have to have a healthy mission and vision. And by health, I mean clarity, buy-in, fit, which leads into culture and values. Are your culture and values healthy? And there is a saying that culture eats strategy for lunch. And what that simply means is, you can have the best well-laid plans, the best well-laid intent, but if the culture is toxic, if the culture is contrary to what we're trying to achieve, it's not going to work. And so, are your culture and values aligned? Do those values show themselves way beyond a poster? Do the values show themselves in how we behave? How about the culture? If I were to ask all of you, what is the culture you're trying to foster? And are you doing that? Do we know the top 3 things we'd like to see? Do we know even what success is? So we either become an accidental culture because we're not intentional about the culture, or we become the culture we want to become because we are intentional about it. And so for you as the contributor, for you as the leader, what are you doing to foster that culture that you hopefully buy into? And what are you doing to kind of harness and help influence a culture if we're not there yet? The next area I talk about, and I touch on it again, is superpowers, and more importantly, what I call core competencies. And a core competency simply is what separates you from everybody else in terms of your talent, your unique point of differentiation? And are they being fully leveraged? When you converge your talent, when you converge your skills, when you converge your passion, when you converge your area of service, all that goes into what I call your superpower. A strategy simply is, what are you doing to move towards any goal that you have? How are you laying out the steps? What are you going to focus on so you can move incrementally towards achieving your goal? That's a strategy. A goal is either problem related or opportunity related. But the importance of a strategy, first of all, is you have to have one. So if we have a goal, which is under the vision, then we have certain strategies to fulfill that vision. And so my challenge for you are your strategies, first of all, complementing your vision? Are you using your core competencies to fulfill those strategies? Because you don't want to be who you're not as well to fulfill those strategies. And do you as an individual know how you fit into those strategies? The focus areas are not the difficult part. It's keeping converged. It's keeping aligned. And at the same time, you who are leaders have the responsibility to empower, to support, to help engage, to nurture, to be there at your people's needs, at times of needs, and at the same time, help yourself too. Holy freaking goodness. How big of a challenge is that? And when I talk about leadership, first of all, I talk at the very highest level. Do we have the right talent in the right seats? I'll use a football analogy because we just had the Super Bowl, but I don't want the kicker in the quarterback position. I don't want the quarterback in the kicker position, and I don't want a defensive coach in the offensive coach position. Are you doing everything within your power to make sure we have the talent in the right seats? And if you don't, then do you have the courage to keep on changing? Because, by the way, if they're not in the right seats, I can tell you right now, people know this. They know this personally. They might not tell you, but I know this. I've worked with thousands of people, and they know if they're in the right seat, and they know if they're not. And it hurts them just as much as it hurts you, just as much as it hurts the whole enterprise. And so individually, I'm challenging you right now. Are you in the right seat? Because I want you to be happy. And I know if you're not in the right seat, you're not happy. If you're not happy, then you're not fully engaged. And I need you fully engaged at the very least, as much as realistically possible. The other leadership component is as a whole. So as a whole, do we operate and conduct and act as one voice? Do we represent each other consistently? I don't want to go to Sally Mae and Joe Schmo and Tom whoever, and I get kind of a different leadership. I get different leadership, different focus, different priorities. That's not leadership. That's siloed leadership, and that's not going to work either. And so you got to be as consistent as possible on your expectations on what leadership means. And I do mean at all levels. And you don't have to oversee someone or a team to be a leader. You yourself are a leader of yourself, right? But the very simple goal in the realm of leadership for self is this: you cannot be an impediment to anyone. You cannot be perceived as an impediment to anyone. And what that means is someone, whoever they are, cannot have the sense of hesitation if they are working, communicating, or reporting to you. That's not acceptable because it causes intimidation. It causes the sense of disengagement. So you just can't be an impediment. You don't have to be perfect. You just can't be an impediment. I hope that makes sense. And that is very important also, that you leverage your strengths. The impediment factor is what I call manage your weaknesses. Okay. Last but not least, comes full circle back to the sense of purpose. Do you feel a personal sense of value at work? And in fact, if you don't, this must be where you start. Because if you don't have a sense of value or even feel a sense of value, no matter in what shape and form, I'd really have a big problem with that. It affects how you serve. It affects how you contribute. It affects how you're going to be leveraged. And at the end of the day, it affects how you feel. And I can tell you, having worked with all levels in companies, including CEOs to owners to board members, everybody struggles with this at one time or another. So, do you feel leveraged? And that simply means, at the very least, are you able to use your talent, regardless of whether it was formal education or not? At the very least, do you feel some sense of value? At the very least, do you feel like you matter?